Hello, if we haven't met before, my name is Rachel, and I like to talk about all things holistic health, spirituality, intimacy, intuition, basically becoming your happiest and highest self, overcoming suffering, because there's so much that one can do to completely transform their life. And today I want to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is overcoming anxiety and depression naturally. So, on my journey, I probably always had anxiety growing up, but I was never diagnosed. And then the summer before senior year of college, I had like crazy depression. I've never been told this, but I would call it acute depression because I would wake up and just want to go back to bed. Like I had no drive. It was it was really bad. And I call it acute because it was just that summer, and I know that I'll never be back at that point in my life. However, I had this crazy, like, I don't know if I was diagnosed with it ever, but I remember this point in my life was the first time I ever was like, you can heal anxiety and depression naturally. Like, I was never told that. And I started to Google and research and find some things out online. And all of that information, plus lots of the other healing that I've done, completely transformed my life. So I want to be able to give back in that way because it helped me so much. So there's a lot to dive into, and there's a lot of levels and layers, which is my kind of favorite thing because I'm holistic and I like to talk about all of the layers. So the very beginning of that journey, I remember I was with a partner at the time who had anxiety growing up also, and he was kind of like, ooh, I want to overcome anxiety, but he didn't want to take his medication anymore. So one of the first supplements I remember finding was passion flower. So that's something that you can start to look into now that I know more about what I do. GABA, I'm not going to remember what it stands for, but GABA. Might be like an amino acid or something, but that's a supplement that can help your brain chemistry. And then I'm going to dive into all of the things that I learned. And this isn't necessarily in a certain order, but again, my certain order of how things went was, I think sometime that summer, my cousin had mentioned a book called A Mind of Your Own by Kelly Brogan, and I really dove into that and I really resonated with it because she talks about the root cause of depression is chronic inflammation. So that was the book where I first learned about going dairy-free, gluten-free, cutting out refined sugar. I don't know if it talked about gut health in there, but gut health is another thing. So I also learned about gut health and healing leaky gut. So that's when you turn towards L-glutamine and you do celery juice and you do bone broth. L-glutamine is an amino acid that is in our bodies and our bodies makes it. However, if you need support in healing a leaky gut, so a leaky gut is when we have food particles that stay in the linings of our guts. However, with chronic stress and toxins and chemicals in our systems, our gut junctions can get tiny holes, so then foods can escape and cause inflammation around the body because that particle and cell or whatever of food is somewhere where it's not supposed to be. So our autoimmune response is like, this isn't supposed to be here. I'm going to cause a headache, or I'm going to cause inflammation or pain. Okay, so leaky gut is definitely something to look into if you have chronic health issues. Bone broth has collagen in it, so that can heal the junctions of the leaky gut. You can also do a collagen supplement that's been really popular for your skin recently, but again, it can be helpful in healing the gut lining. And then, a huge takeaway from that book is, unfortunately, with so many inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, that have just a bunch of proteins and toxins and chemicals because of how they're made or processed in this country. And I mean, you can watch food documentaries on that, right? Unfortunately, if you want to heal your gut, you really have to stay away from those foods, because as soon as you eat that food, your body's inflammatory response is turned on again. So you really have to go weeks and months cutting out gluten, dairy, and sugar are kind of the top three, I would say. Soy can be something for people that they're sensitive to. Nightshades for some people. Corn is another one. Peanuts. Those are kind of the like top ones, you know. Then some people also have sensitivities to like tree nuts and such. But for that, I recommend to start muscle testing your body and figure out what your body likes and what it doesn't like. For me, I needed to go gluten-free, and then dairy was also up there, and sugar was a huge one. Like I said, those top three. Right now I'm staying away from corn to heal my skin. I have done like soy protein in the past, and I started to get a headache right here. Soy, too much estrogen headache, so I'm staying away from soy. I started to stay away from peanuts long ago too because I was sensitive to those. Refined sugar, as in white sugar, which is like an added ingredient in many things, I stay away from because I just started to have this inflammatory response and feel super duper sick if I ate it. So diet is a huge part in healing anxiety and depression naturally, bringing down a chronic inflammatory response happening in the body and the brain. Leaky gut, sealing up that leaky gut, staying away from inflammatory foods is super beneficial. So I like to do, you know, way more of a deeper dive working with clients and figuring out what can heal their gut and what will be the best diet for them to heal from chronic issues as well as lose weight. You know, there's a lot of things, but that's kind of a big overview. So also in that journey, when I started all this work, so it was like supplements and diet and leaky gut. Okay. Another piece of this that is seems very controversial, because there are like holistic health people that I follow, and I suffered from having too many toxins and chemicals in my system. And a lot of people are like, your liver detoxes all the time. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it does. And unfortunately, in our chronically stressed modern lives, a lot of us have toxins and chemicals in our bodies. So for me, this is only, again, my personal experience. I can only speak from my personal experience. I'm not going to speak to anybody else's because that just seems to make everybody mad. But growing up, I used to have a red dot under my eye. And when I started to go to my first chiropractor to do nutrition response testing, he was like, it's arsenic. Every single time it came up as arsenic, 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 arsenic. And arsenic, as you may or may not know, is a rat poison. It can poison people and kill them. So, you know, not from my knowing did I ever eat arsenic out of a rat trap, right? But the reality is that there's arsenic in our water supplies, and that's probably where I was getting it from. So as I started to go to that chiropractor, I would get like a homeopathic that helped detoxify and help my cells really push that out. I don't have the red dot anymore. And I used to actually have a red dot on my hand also, and that's not there anymore. I don't know if it was arsenic, but it probably was. So that's the first example. And then when I was starting to do this detox and starting that healing process, I worked at a full-time job, and they had, you know, the big jug of water that they bring in. I would drink out of that, and I swear to God, I would have a headache and a stomach ache a couple hours later. And as I was getting more in tune with my body, I would go to this chiropractor and be like, arsenic. And I'm like, oh. So just drinking that little bit of water from this however many gallon tub at a workplace, my body was like, poison, 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 like having a symptomatic response to poison being in my system. And again, I can only speak from my personal experience. I know for me, arsenic was the one that was, you know, built up in my system more. My brother went to a holistic, I think he may have gone to my second chiropractor. And he has more mercury in his system. So I'm not saying that everyone has arsenic. It's going to be different for people. Mercury, not as much of an issue for me. Arsenic, yes. I think chlorine's going to be a high one up there. Some people it's copper. So again, I'm not here to say you're completely filled with these toxins. However, unfortunately, a lot of us have ingested these into our systems, and because we are so overloaded, our bodies can't always get rid of those poisons very quickly. So what happens is that our body's smart enough to protect itself, right? It wants to keep us alive. So it's like, well, I'm just gonna put this toxin and poison away. And usually it stores it in fat. So if you're starting to lose weight, there can be a whole release of toxins. And so it's really important to support your body's lymph and detoxification pathways. So supporting the liver, kidneys, lymph system. That's another kind of topic. But in regards to this video, healing anxiety and depression naturally, early on in my journey, I also found the medical medium, and only in the last year did I find him again. I highly recommend his books and or his websites, because he talks about how these toxins and poisons and chemicals and metals cause issues in our brain and cause issues and symptoms in our body, because our body has these things floating around in it. Then viruses and bacteria can eat those toxins and poisons, and it's just this whole kind of nasty cycle. So again, only from personal experience can I say, like, this year, what I've been doing for medical medium stuff is working on healing my acne, okay? So that's really about supporting my liver. So I had spirulina and barley grass juice powder for a while. I went through containers of those. Next, I want to get cleavers and or red clover to support my lymph system. But spirulina, barley grass juice powder, he has a detoxification smoothie. So if you have all those ingredients, especially within a 24-hour period, all those ingredients in the smoothie can bind onto toxins and push them out of your system. So again, when it comes to anxiety and depression, a lot of people are going to have, there's a lot of layers to it, right? That's why, again, I like to talk about this, because there's the nutrition side, and then there's these toxins. So drinking clean water, spring water, reverse osmosis with the mineral drops added back in. These are all things you can control. Now, does it take time to change your habits? Yes, it's taken me a while, but I'm just speaking from experience and to share this information with people. So I'm going to close that book chapter, part of the book chapter. And then we're going to move on to the emotion side of it and the wiring side. Because as you may or may not know, or something that I preach and that I've learned from Tony Robbins and other people that I've looked up to, we are our patterns and habits. So if you have spent your whole life thinking really disempowering thoughts and beliefs, like, of course that's going to be a part of having anxiety and depression. Because what's anxiety? Anxiety is just fear. So if you've been wired for fear, and again, my story, like being super duper highly sensitive, and to my environment, I was like geared in on everything and I had to kind of be on high alert. I had a lot of anxiety, I had a lot of stress, I had a lot of that tension. So a lot of my journey has been about, well, if I don't want to feel anxious all the time, how can I feel more safe and secure in my body? So a big part of that has been mindset, right? And like, okay, I'm safe right now, I'm safe right now, I'm safe right now. And understanding and learning when a trigger or a situation comes up, like in my family or with dating or with friends, being like, okay, this is happening for me to learn a lesson, not it's happening to me. So I would argue and say that when everyone knows what it's like to be in victim mentality at least one point in our lives, right? Like, why is this happening to me? Humans love to play that card. We've loved to say, why is this happening to me? Like, if there was a God, he wouldn't allow this to happen to me, right? Because that's, we're feeling so much pain and tension and terror and trauma and shock. It's like, if there was something out there that could save me and make me not go through this, then I wouldn't be feeling this way right now. And then again, when it comes to anxiety, unfortunately, well, fortunately for us, we have a older part of the nervous system that turns on fear and the fear response, because fear has kept us alive, right? It's that old example of the saber-toothed tiger. If we didn't run away from the saber-toothed tiger, we died. So that's why fear evolved to keep us alive. But again, in modern life, we don't have saber-toothed tigers running around to kill us. Unfortunately, some humans decide to unalive some people. And people pass away in freak accidents and whatever. But that anxiety and fear response is still very real. So that's why when you look at, like self-care and trauma work nowadays, it's about breath work, it's about doing yoga, it's about Tai Chi, Qigong, like supporting your body, going to therapy. For me, QNRT has really rewired my subconscious mind. So I would have stressors that would come up, and my brain's wiring and patterning remembered like that stressor that came up when I was young, sometimes even like 3 years old. So that kind of therapy rewired my brain, so it's like when that stressor comes up again, you won't have this same physical symptom and same pattern. Again, not that I'm saying that everyone has to do that, but mindset and just understanding how your thoughts truly do create your life is a huge piece in this holistic healing anxiety and depression naturally. And again, I'm not like, if you believe that in one healing session or one therapy session everything's going to be healed, that's not how it goes. I hit the healing game and journey hard for 5 years straight. And I have completely transformed, but I was just like in the trenches for that time, and I was like, I'm gonna change no matter what. And I have completely transformed, which is why I can share this information with you. But that was 5 years. It wasn't a one and done. It wasn't overnight. So it's not gonna be that. So don't expect to be like, I did affirmations one day and now my life will be completely different the next day. Like I just said, if you've thought the same thought and pattern for 30 plus years, why do you think it's going to change in 4 days? We want it to change in 4 days because we want to do the work and have an outcome. But that's not how it works, because we have to rewire and retrain. Okay, so I do recommend affirmations and podcasts and books, and there's a lot of ladybugs down here. Do you hear that? And, anything to kind of broaden your horizons, I guess, if you will. YouTube was a huge resource in that for me, and the internet in general. And like I said, books and healing leaders that I look up to. Like Kelly Brogan was big for that book for me. Wayne Dyer is all about changing your thoughts, changing your life. Tony Robbins, again, I really resonate with. We both have the same soul purpose. So if you go to knowyourdestinycards.com, you can put in your birthday and see what your soul is here to do. And me and him have the same one, and I very much resonate with mine. But again, not that that's what this video is about, but I see all of that as just tools to, again, become more empowered rather than disempowered. Like, this is what my life is actually about. This is what I'm here to do. Because again, I've been in that victim mindset, or that belief of like, well, it should be different, or if I was worthy of love, or I was deserving of all blah, 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 then it would be this way. But what if it's not? It might not be because I'm defective or not enough. It might be because it's timing. It might be because I need to be patient, which are both very true. I've been learning a lot about being patient and being okay with not having all of my wants and desires and needs met in the way that I thought I needed to. What else? For anxiety and depression. So just kind of overall basics. I just mentioned those, like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. Talk therapy. Yes, you can talk about issues and problems and start to have a new mindset and see things a different way. I think for anxiety and depression, for me, that's why I had to go deeper, because I couldn't just think different thoughts. Like, I was just stuck in the muck for so long. And then when I did kind of this chronic inflammation stuff and detoxing and supporting my body, now I actually do have more positive thoughts. So yes, you can think more positive thoughts. I'm all for that. And part of my journey was also doing this more like holistic alternative stuff, like homeopathy I didn't even mention, but that was a practice for me for a long time, or a modality that I used. Homeopathy, detoxing, healing your leaky gut. Because if you have chronic inflammation, like I remember when I was chronically inflamed and like I had fatigue, I had weight gain, I had the emotional imbalances and the ups and downs, I gained weight, I had thyroid issues. Like it is very important to do what I first talked about and then kind of start to change the mindset too. And then again, for me, I was always moving as a kid. I was an athlete, but when I was so inflamed, it hurt to work out. So I didn't want to work out. Like my whole body hurt. I had like a headache all of the time. So again, that's why I was like, well, there's something to be said for having more positive thoughts, but I also had to do, why am I so inflamed? Like, why is my body reacting in this crazy way? And then also, so then some just overall basics for emotional mental health. Being outside. So if you think about humans, we have evolved with the out of doors for much longer than we have been indoors, right? Like humans have been around for however many thousands of years, and only in the last 100 to 200 we spent more time inside. So we are really wired to be outside, wake up with the sun, go to bed when it's dark out, having the sunshine on us, moving outside, going to be around trees, going to a park, having green spaces, looking up at the blue sky, looking up at the stars, looking at plants. Like nature is so healing for us, and that can really bring balance to mental and emotional health. I just had another one. Oh, connection. So humans are social creatures, and I know that you might feel this way, or if you look around, you can see some people are very isolated. So the most extreme example of this would be mostly, in this example, I'm not saying, but like young men that decide to go into schools and with a bang bang and get rid of people. Like that is isolation at the most extreme. Like they feel so not belonging that they're going to take it out on everybody. And again, not everybody's experience, but that's the most extreme example of this. For me, again, I can only speak from my personal experience. I have felt isolation and loneliness at different points in my life. When I was kind of going through this dark night of the soul and spiritual awakening and ascension and really creating meaning in my life, one of the biggest turning points was Thanksgiving of 2020, when I was gonna meet with my family and then it ended up not working out. So I spent a holiday by myself, and I was just very upset by that, and I just was feeling super lonely, but I held myself through it. And now, again, this came in layers, but I don't feel lonely and isolated anymore at all. So it's something that I have integrated, right, in my shadow and in my healing work. I felt that a lot. Like I didn't have one group of friends growing up. I still don't. So if you look to external messages like, oh, you need to have one group of friends you're friends with, because if not, you're isolated and you don't belong anywhere. Like that's a very disempowering story. However, I didn't have that, and I don't feel isolated anymore because I have amazing social connections. So I've come a far way in that, and there are points where I need to be alone because I am highly sensitive and people sensitive. However, when I do choose to spend time around people and I'm with people, I only really spend time around people that fill up my cup. Like I know who I can tell something to and not have them judge me, and they can hold space for me. And that has taken a lot of discernment and discerning. Like not everyone is worthy of all of my heart, right? So because I am this big open-hearted healer, and I'm like, I want to heal the whole world and make the world a better place and be a light worker and shine my light, and I don't want people to suffer. That's true. And there's a handful of people that I can really connect deeply with in the way that I want to. So I think what's happening is if people are feeling more lonely and isolated, it's because they're having these superficial connections. And some people have these superficial connections in their friendships and in their intimate relationships and with their family. Like, I've always been someone that likes to connect very deeply. Like, I don't like to talk about surface level stuff. I like to talk about this sort of thing. So understanding that my people were out there, I always knew that. Even when I was a young girl, I was like, I know my people are out there. I know my people are out there. And I finally found them. I finally have had amazing conversations with people. But I had to have faith and hope that my people I wanted to connect with were out there, and I was correct. So that's definitely part of this anxiety and depression thing, is feeling like you belong somewhere. Even if it is just, you know, Tuesday night dinner with one friend, or like talking on the phone once a month with someone. And if, you know, if you're like, nothing's possible for me like that, then okay, if you have literally no one in your life, then how can you start to connect with yourself? Because you always have yourself. And that is also a huge piece of this whole overall healing journey. You know, coming to terms with yourself and who you are. So my foot's asleep. Let me think if there's anything else for anxiety, depression. I talked about leaky gut, diet, medical medium for toxins and chemicals, connection, being outside, yoga, tai chi. So yeah, moving your body. But again, for me, I was like, wow, I'm so inflamed I can't even move my body. Like, there's so many levels, like I said, and levels are pieces of the puzzle. But and then for connection too, I mean, pets are a huge thing, right? I've always loved animals and nature shows. So even if I like, so again, my depression journey or story, part of it was, so that summer, like I said before, senior year was really rough. And then fall, I went to my new college because I transferred. And I remember that fall, it felt like I was coming out of a fog. Because my brain had been a certain way, I was coming out of a fog. I could literally feel and see in my mind's eye, like these new neural pathways kind of coming back online. And like I said, a big piece of that was I always liked animals and nature when I was younger. And then at that point, I remembered that. I remembered being a little kid and I was like, I want to watch nature shows again. And I like watched those shows and connected with, like, the crocodile hunter was a huge hero of mine. And I like reconnected with that and watched it again. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, connection, right? Even if I'm connecting to another piece of me and plugging into, like, I'm coming out of the depression fog, like, that was a huge piece of that. I think when I was out of college, I joined a self-development women's book club, so that was very empowering and a really cool sisterhood at that time. I've went to women's circles, I've gone to spiritual places here locally and online. Like I said, YouTube is a great resource. Binaural beats for overall wellness, I highly recommend those too. Emotional freedom technique, again, I tried that early on in my journey and it was helpful, but I had to go deeper. However, I highly recommend it as a tool. For bringing down inflammation, I mentioned gluten, sugar, dairy. Alcohol is also going to be very inflammatory to the body, so I know that's hard for some people to hear. However, I'm just the messenger. There's not health benefits to alcohol. Like, water is the only thing we need to drink, really. So something to consider, or Google or research or whatever. Physical touch. I just got a massage today. That's probably why this one's on my mind. Physical touch is very healing. So I read not too long ago, like, as a baby, like, we don't know language as a baby. However, we do know physical touch. So physical touch is this very powerful language. And unfortunately, again, some people have had traumatic physical touch, which again, I totally get if it's too much. However, this is your body and your being, and if you want to change your life and you want to become the happiest and healthiest version of yourself, it is your responsibility to take action steps, even if it's 1% every single day, to get closer to who you want to be and your goals. So it can be the butterfly hug. Again, go on YouTube or Google it. It can also be on your thighs. It can just be stretching and being in your body. Again, unfortunately, people have really disassociated because of traumatic things that have happened. So they're like, I'm not even in my body. Like, this isn't even me. However, if you want to truly heal and become integrated and whole, you need to get back in your body. You need to feel safe in your body. So again, I love doing overviews of things. If you want more one-on-one support, that's where I get into customized like readings, coaching, healing. But overall, I had a lot of really good nuggets in this video. Let me know if this has helped you. Like, comment, or subscribe. That would help me so much. Reach more people. Likes if this was helpful. Let me know what you want to see next. Subscribe if you want to hear more information. But yeah, I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you soon.